Since everyone definitely loved this voice last time, I decided to use him again. This time, I'm playing the unknown for the first time in a while. I love this killer, but lately, I have been struggling to enjoy this role. Discordance procs on this gen over here, telling me there's at least two survivors. This game is actually a build request from one of my viewers, who is AP100 Unknown. I tagged the survivors with my VX, and my indecision to choose a chase hinders me. I just decided to follow the scratch marks. I actually have no idea what my plan was here. It works out in my favor. Even though I'm rusty, I still get some nice UVX shots. DA should have been my priority here, but I couldn't find his tracks. Chasing the David here is a mistake, considering the RNG from Maine is in their favor. At this point, because I haven't been committing, I need to apply gen pressure. It's good to get survivors infected with my UVX because it may help me the next time I bump into them. Countering an unknown isn't easy, but it's not hard either. Survivors can dodge the UVX blast pretty simply, so having that advantage is nice. David's infection goes away, meaning he has been watching the chase.
You paint stuff and then you put it over the top and it makes it...
You'll notice I end up sticking to this side of the map most of the game, which turns in my favor towards the end.
Yeah, that's what it does.
Committing to the Kate when she's clearly going to shack is never a good idea, especially with how poorly I've dealt with the beginning. I don't even know why I tried that. There's nothing there for the UVX to explode on.
Love that.
Unknown's power can shut down Shack a little easier because it can go through walls. In saying that, you have to be smart about when you do chase it. We're at 3 gens now. I need to drop chase and find someone easier. Ace makes the mistake of hanging around even though he's injured, and this tile is never great for survivors. He drops the pallet, giving me a free UVX hit, which is detrimental to him. He also chose to loop the short side of this tile, which is never smart. I can finally get my first hook, but my gen pressure is abysmal at this point. We're technically at 1 or 2 gens already. I need to start playing like we actually are instead of far-tossing around. I drop a hallucination here as I've decided to hold down the gens on this side of the map, to which there are 4. There are technically 5, but one of these is going to go regardless of what I do. Going back to the hook to see if I can interrupt a save, a hook trade would be huge. Instead, these guys are prioritizing gens. I infect Kate but leave her to interrupt any heals. This will leave Ace injured for longer if I don't tunnel. I tend to flick my camera a lot when playing killer. I don't recommend doing it. It's just a habit for me, and sometimes it confuses the survivors. I get a really sexy orbital on the Kate as I know her and David will be working on gens. Trying to use UVX physics in the shack, but it doesn't work, and as expected, main gen pops. With powers like this, I never shoot immediately in these situations. Survivors will often mind game themselves and give you a free hit. Patience is crucial, and you need to ensure if the survivor is committing. If they're holding items, you can tell if they're going to vault because the item will disappear. Unfortunately, this gives them time to pop this gen too. But because I've upheld this side of the map, I have an okay-ish 3 gen. As long as I maintain pressure and place down good hallucinations, this should begin to balance the game.
And that's it. Now we just have 1 gen.
I interrupt David with this unhook. I wanted to get to second, but gen pressure is in the back of my mind.
Are you kidding
Also,
me?
fuck the snowman. James is also here, meaning Ace might be working on a gen alone. Someone throws snowballs at me, but fuck the snowballs. Kate just got off hook. Turns out all 3 were here for the unhook. And I don't know how Kate snuck past me. Maybe I was in the throes of my DBD frustration. Slimy Rat was up here getting healed. I don't know why they're resetting in this tile,
Yeah,
but this
she's
is one of the
right past
mistakes
me,
that tipped the
yeah,
game in
yeah.
my favor. My dumbass flick doesn't work, so I leave because I know the other three are still hanging around.
So much fun on my games right now.
Realistically, there should be no gen progress because they decided they needed 3 Batmans to save Wonder Woman.
At the moment, they're just so good.
Kate is healed, so I either have to more injured survivors in my proximity or she used her medkit. Instead of resetting, we have an injured survivor starting to work on a gen. Just my luck, it's Ace, who already has a hook stage. I leave because what the fuck was that? It turns out to be a good decision because now I can down the James and hook inside my 3 gen. I should hit him on the hook for throwing snowballs at me, but I decided to be nice today. There's a nice and pretty hook between these 2 gens, and a little Kate getting rid of my hallucinations up my ass crack while I'm picking. I'm a little bit worried about the gen on the far side because I have no hallucinations over there. Even though this gen has little progress, I kick it anyway to see if anyone is actively trying to work on it. For some reason, this other one is untouched. You'll notice that the other survivors are healed, though, meaning that they're at least making out in the bushes. Kate has made a return, and I'm close enough to get a free hit. I don't commit because someone might be rotating up for the unhook. I'm proven correct as David is here, and because he's out in the open, I get another free hit. This team should have been working on the gen in the T and L tile as it's safer than not pre-running away from an open area. I get a nice hit with my VX. Luckily it's on the Ace, who I would be glad to second stage. No point in tunneling the James because he may have anti-tunnel perks when I know Ace is right there. They just keep leading me back to other players who seem to love this gen in particular. I can finally get someone second staged, which is huge for me. Having someone on death hook is reassuring when things are bad. I don't think this is SWF. I think this is just solo cute teammates who love gens. Their gameplay doesn't seem to synergize otherwise. Discordance procs on the furthest gen, telling me they're finally starting to progress that one. The aura goes red immediately, so I assume they're resetting in the tile there. Nurses proves me correct, so now I can disrupt this reset and apply more pressure. The dumbass snowman sandbags me, but it won't stop me in my quest to win this game. David gets downed, and though I'm not hooking in the middle of my 3 gen, I can still put pressure on hook stages. I tend to look up when carrying because of developed trauma from audio-less flashbangs. Scratch marks lead me to Kate, who is still hanging around. I decide not to pursue. Maybe I can disrupt gen progress. Instead, I arrive at the tail end of a heal. I infect James, who leaps into my arms like we're the stars of the Notebook. Downing next to my hanging meat is good for me, because now I can potentially cut off any saves. I missed this shot like a fucking dumbass, so I hit him anyway to force him to mend. They're trying to pick up in my face, which I need to stop immediately. That's my slug, not yours. Ace body blocks so that I don't down the Kate instead, but that's better for me because now I have a fully injured team. Deathhook teammates shouldn't be taking hits. Instead of worrying about saves, get back to work on those gens. I'll reach the maximum regression events at some point. Yet again, they're resetting up my ass, so I can interrupt this. A good team would be resetting at the other end of the map. I have no incentive to go there when my 3 gen is here and all 4 survivors are alive. I now have the slugs, and I decide to hook Ace first because I know he's dead now. This is looking really good for me.
I'm not really.
As you can see, there's really no progress on these gens. I know I'm maintaining pressure here, but my cards aren't being played the strongest, and neither are theirs. This is pretty much a turning point for me with the new tone. It's going to be difficult for them to regain control. The James is already healed, so I assume that David will be soon too. Kate is hooked relatively close to my other gens, so as long as I'm not too close, she won't get anti-camp. David is still injured, and for some reason, he's the one making progress. This probably wasn't their best decision. I feel comfortable to chase to the other side of the map now. With one gone and the other on hook, there's not much consequence to this unless he turns into the best looper in DBD history. This means I have to hook in a safe zone for them, but I'm fine with this. Luckily for me, this ended up being the point of no return for them.
I'm not enjoying Killer.
Immediately going back to hook for the tail end of their heel. Maybe I can catch someone off guard. I did see the scratch marks, but I need to double check neither of them have gotten back to a gen. Progress is being made, but there's no sign of someone being here.
I've also just been really
In the back of my mind, I know someone is already making their way up for the unhook, which leaves one person unaccounted for. I find Kate here, so I assume James is going for David. I usually don't swing unless I know they've committed to the vault. I tried cutting her off at this teleport, which works in my favor. She's making a beeline around Maine for some reason. There are no resources on this side of the map. Wondrously, James misses a skill check. King is working on this gen, which tells me they plan to let David die to try and get a gen done. They probably assumed I would proxy the hook to ensure another death, which is not a bad assumption. But I'm boring as fuck, so I didn't do that. James is clearly trying to unhook David now that they're in this situation. This could be an unbreakable play if I were to slug. But they left it too late, and James is forced to run to the pallet instead. I think he left because I paused at the pallet, giving the illusion I may break it. This is why patience is important. If you don't see the unknown throwing it back on all fours, then they're not breaking the pallet. Let's go find Kate now to secure that for Kay, otherwise my family's life is at stake. I'm just listening out for her crying sounds, and she drops from somewhere here, so it's not hard to pinpoint her. Delectable Maury to finish the game.
Yeah, you have to be sweaty if you want to win.
I don't think I was particularly sweaty this round. I was just matching the energy given to me, and it turned what was a 0,000 into a 4K. Here's their builds. GG's everyone. Now you know how to secure the bag and look seethy while doing it.